Welcome to Roomies Review the Movies. I'm Maria, and this is Lindsay.
Hi.
We former college roommates who love movies because Lindsay has a degree in film, and I review movies for about 20 years. And what we're doing here is covering some of the movies that we may have missed along the way. Now, this movie, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, did come out in 2019, so it wasn't directly from our childhoods. However, it is based on a series of books that came out when we were kids. Um,
That I
I
still missed.
Do you recall these books at all?
No.
Okay. So I liked like scary stories and stuff like that, but I refused to like touch this book because of the illustrations.
Oh yeah. The illustrations is serious business.
Yeah. The illustrations are like very disturbing.
Yeah.
Like they're actually scary. And
Right.
I couldn't have them staring at me while reading the story, but uh I heard other people read the stories and like tell the stories from the book. So one of the last times I remember like seeing the book in person, I think it was like I don't know if I was 8 or 10, but we were at like a Halloween thing
Hmm.
with the Girl Scout troop, and somebody was reading the book. And I remember like just kind of like glancing at it every so often, like
Yeah.
so I'm still very familiar with a lot of these stories. Um let's see. Oh, and the books also got banned in various places because they thought they were too scary and explicit.
Um. You know, I can see why.
The thing is, the stories aren't. The stories aren't explicit. Like
It could be maybe they're going off of the illustration.
they're going off the illustrations. They haven't read it.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's actually a documentary about the series of books and the author and stuff like that, their impact and all stuff. And they talk about that. And they have one of the women who was like, basically called for the book to get banned. And she was like, well, I didn't mean to. I was like, no, girl, please. Anyway,
That's exactly what you meant. Well.
right. But this librarian talks about how her one of her administrators came to her and was like, "Oh, well, you can take it off the shelves." She was like, "Well, have you read it?" And he was like, "No." She was like, "Well, I hadn't read it either." So she was like, "Well, let me check it out and I'll read it and then, see what's going on." They hadn't read it.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's how it normally goes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as this woman who was one of the people to challenge the book was like,
Hmm.
her son had come home and she wanted to see his backpack for some reason.
Hmm.
And she was like, "He usually has no trouble, like, letting me see his backpack, but this time he didn't want me to see it." I can't imagine why.
Right.
This
Right.
was his question.
But but
Uh,
yeah, if you doing all that,
I can't imagine why he might not want him to share that with
right, right. But
him.
I
Mhm.
like as far as like elementary, maybe like kindergarten, first, second grade, I can definitely see why you would side eye a teacher trying to, you know, present this to a class.
That
But
was never a thing, though. Like, the teachers were not presenting it to class. It wasn't being taught or anything like that. It was just
it just
available.
was, yeah, okay. But as you know, um, maybe fourth and fifth graders. This will be in the fourth and fifth grade section, but
Sure,
not
I
the
guess. I don't know. I don't really remember how elementary school libraries work, to be honest. I was in
well.
middle school when I was so for me this was middle school. But
Yeah, well, I remember that like you would go to the library like you would go to any like music and gym and stuff like that, and the librarian will present books to you, like what are options, and they would, section them off for grades. So I do remember doing that.
I can't say I really remember. So they
Yeah.
may have. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I wanted to show some of these pictures that I'm talking about here.
Okay.
So I'm just going to share my screen, or so I thought. Okay. So these are just some of the illustrations.
They did a good job with that one in the movie.
Yeah, they did a really good job with a lot, like translating a lot of the illustrations onto film.
Hmm.
Not directly, but if not directly, like the same kind of very spooky feel. Uh,
Hmm.
like you see Harold right here, like ooh, right.
Hmm.
So you got a lot of reference points to go through. So there's the illustration of Harold,
Hmm.
very spooky, very creepy. You get it.
Yeah. I will say this, that the pictures are scarier than the film.
Because your imagination can fill in so much.
Yes.
And then there's
Yes.
like the pictures, the stories are memorable, but the pictures are haunting.
Yeah. Right, right. And then just the style of illustration that they chose that they chose makes it even more haunting.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
It was even when there was a 30th anniversary reprinting of the stories, they
mhm.
actually replaced the illustrations and used a different illustrator for like something more less scary, more kid friendly kind of illustrations. And people were not happy about that because one of the major things that people remember are these illustrations.
Yeah.
You know, And in the 2011 version, like, they're much more flowy, kind of more nice, um, like your more traditional kind of illustration that you would see. They're beautiful, but they're not delivering the creep factor.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's probably like one of the standout things with this whole franchise is how creepy the illustrations are. So if you
Mhm.
take away that element, I can see a lot of people being mad.
Yeah, because it's not the same.
Yeah.
So, there was actually like a petition, like something like change.org or whatever, I don't know, but, like, there were people signing that and, like, saying, "Hey, we want it with the original illustrations." And so in
Hmm.
2017, they decided to do that and, like, release them in 2019 to coincide with the release of the novel.
Okay.
But, the series is listed by the American Library Association as being the most challenged series of books from the 1990s and the 7th most challenged from the 2000s, and it made the list again in 2012.
Oh, so this is a big deal.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. A big deal. And
Mhm.
now I'm part of the conversation.
You're part of the conversation. Welcome. Yeah,
Thank you.
documentary also came out in, 2019, and it's available on Prime if you wanna give that a watch.
Okay.
Um, but I chose this movie based on that very, strong childhood connection, like, not just
Hmm.
me being a lonely kid in the library, but, like, it being read out to a bunch of kids at a, Halloween thing, which is totally where you should be doing this. It's great for that,
Oh. Oh,
you know?
okay. So y'all like this was like legit. Y'all really sat around and read this.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of, it was kinda like a carnival kind of thing going on, so you had people
Uh-huh.
doing all over the place, and so I don't know how I found the person who was reading it, but they were reading it, and I was like, I wanted to listen to it because I do
Mhm.
understand.
Right, right, right.
But yeah.
Okay.
So the film came out in 2019, so,
Hmm.
right before everything fell apart, and, I wanna say, like, produced by Guillermo del Toro. Yeah, produced by Guillermo del Toro, and if you're familiar with Guillermo del Toro, you know how he loves horror cinema.
Hmm.
You have a favorite Guillermo film? Or del Toro film, I should probably say. No?
This is not my genre.
Oh my goodness. Oh, yeah, that's true. It is not
Yeah.
your genre, but he has done a lot of things. So, No Country for Old Men, that was one of them.
Hmm.
Close
That was
Encounters
a
of
great movie.
Yeah.
That was a great movie. He and the guy with the
Oh,
salad
I'm
bowl
surprised
haircut.
what movie he was picking. But that movie was scary too, yeah.
Man, man. I
But I
just
mean
noticed, yeah,
um,
that guy with the salad bowl haircut, he's in something else that
oh
just
yeah,
came out.
he's in things. He's actually a very good looking dude.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
in a lot.
yeah.
Um,
It was the haircut.
it was definitely the haircut for
Yeah.
sure. But yeah, Guillermo del Toro's done a lot of films that you have probably seen. So, Blade 2, Hellboy, Pan's Labyrinth. You may not have seen that one, but I do love that one.
No.
Hellboy 2, Pacific Rim. I love Pacific Rim.
Pacific Rim doesn't get the flowers that it deserves.
It really doesn't.
Yeah.
The Shape of Water, and there's some other things you probably didn't see. So
I've seen The Shape of Water.
okay, you saw The Shape of Water. Okay, good. Yeah, that's probably the last one he did that wasn't quite like kind of horror themed.
Yeah.
Other than Pinocchio, that came out in 2022. But I
Okay.
feel like if you've seen one Pinocchio, you've probably seen them all. But his
I mean,
Pinocchio
it's
was,
the same. It's
yeah,
the same story.
sorry, exactly.
Right.
That one is a stop motion animated film, so
Oh, okay.
But yeah,
Yeah.
he's got a lot of great things. If you're into, the Halloween season, there's also his Cabinet of Curiosities on Netflix. That's also like an anthology series of different stories he's picked and different writers and creators telling spooky stories. So you can join that too. Uh,
Yeah.
Lindsay, you can do that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So he helped produce this, which is great. You can totally, I definitely see his influence in the looks of the movie.
Mhm.
Um, just kind of like you've got when it's not dark, you've got like all the great fall vibes, right? All
Mhm.
the
Yep.
oranges, browns, golden, warm tones, but even because it was filmed in Georgia, so some of the trees are still green, but it still looks vibrant,
Yeah.
very beautiful in a way that Guillermo is known to do. I do also love Marie Toussaint is in this movie. She's one of my favorite actresses.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she's so great.
Yeah.
Anything, and I will watch it. So,
Yeah. All right. I think she should have been in it more.
yeah, 100%. I
Yeah.
love it. I love her work. So I just, but that was like, oh, two of my faves. Let's do it.
Hmm.
So another one of his that I really like is called Crimson Peak.
I haven't seen that one.
No,
I
that
know.
one is
I know of
very
it.
specifically like a gothic Victorian horror kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it also has like that very lush visual that
Okay.
we get here. So this movie anthology basically it takes several stories from the series and presents them here. And like the theme of the movie is that stories have power, right? The
Hmm.
story you tell yourself, the story you hear, the stories that are told to you, they all have power to shape your real world, no matter how maybe untrue those stories may be.
Hmm.
And we see that like with with all of our characters, pretty much. Well, most of our characters. So like Stella, for instance, right? It's Stella and Augie and Chuck. They're good friends and everything. And Stella doesn't really have too many other friends because her mother left, and the rumors around town got really bad and
Hmm.
isolated her. So that story changed her life,
Yeah.
even though people were saying things that weren't true. And then we also have in the background, because it's 1968, we have the whole story of Vietnam War, right?
Hmm.
And of course, there were lies told about what was happening there, what we were doing there, and why we were there.
Yeah.
And stories got to the point where we have this war. People don't want to participate because they're realizing what's going on. Now we have a draft. That's
Hmm.
what Nolan's caught up in. He's caught up in this
Yeah.
story of what you have to do. And he's also as like a dark skinned Latino man in this you
This
know,
white town.
right.
Yeah.
This policeman is on his back.
Hmm.
No particular reason other than stories that he believes about people who look like Ramon.
Right. Because I mean, ain't like he has a lot of experience with people other than white. So
And Ramon's not breaking any laws. He
literally.
literally has nothing but exist.
Right.
Well, and dodge the draft. But honestly,
I mean, who wasn't trying to dodge the draft back then?
one of our presidential candidates
You know?
had bone spurs.
Yeah.
He doesn't recall in which foot. So, whatever.
Yeah. Right.
Uh,
Right.
Ramon doesn't have that much money. So these stories that throughout the whole movie, they're showing how stories are powerful, um, and you should pay attention to them.
Mhm.
So even the overall story, the way that they collect technology is through another story. And this story is not in the books. This story is for the movie, which involves Sarah Bellows. And so in this film, Sarah Bellows is like this girl who was hidden away, and she would write all these stories and tell them to kids who could hear her through the wall outside because her parents locked her up. Nobody really knows why. So when we go back to 1968, we have Augie, Chuck, and Stella, and they're getting ready for Halloween. Uh, Augie is a Perot, which is just a French clown. I don't know why he keeps saying he's not a clown. You're a French clown, my guy. You're no problem. Sorry. And Augie's actually named after a horror writer. Uh,
Mm.
and Chuck wanted to be Spider-Man. His mom made him this spider, supposed to be a spider, generic spider, like outfit, but she only put 2 arms on it. I was like, "What? He is a
Yeah.
beetle at most." And that's not counting arms and legs. Come on.
That costume was funny.
It
And it was like velvet. Like, what is
is it
this,
glittery? I was like, "What are we doing? What kind of spider?
what is it, velvet?
Is he a show spider? Like, what is happening?"
All right. Poor spider.
And he still wore it because that shit was changed right out. Like, no, you know what? That's okay.
Oh,
Put a sheet
absolutely
on me.
not.
I'm a ghost. Like, honestly.
Right. It's like, what is this?
Right. And Augie, was it Augie? No, it's Chuck, who has an older sister who's like the blonde pretty girl, and Augie has a crush on her and stuff. They don't really see Stella as like an option, which is fine. Just have your friends. Friendship is great.
Right,
And it doesn't
right.
matter. You have Ramon who's come into town, who's very cute, right? I can totally see like being their age and being like, oh, he's just the cutest.
Mm-hmm. Now I have a question.
Mhm.
What was he doing in the toilet?
In the toilet.
Remember, he was in the toilet when his sister came and was like, "What the hell are
Oh,
you doing?"
Chuck, he was fishing the poop out of the toilet.
Why?
Because he put it in the paper bag, set it on fire, and then he threw it in the car where the bully is.
Oh,
Because
actually,
every year, Tommy, who's the bully who is dating or supposed to be on a date with Chuck's sister, every year he goes and steals people's bags, their candy bags. And
mm,
so he's just a bully, period, and they wanted to get revenge on him. So they came up with this plan and threw a flaming bag of poop in the car. So of course, the whole thing with the flaming bag of poop is you have to put it out with what you got, and it's gonna be covered with poop. Now, typically, when I've seen this prank in movies and TV and stuff, people do it with dog poop because, like, you gonna fish out your own poop. He fished out his own poop. That's how much Chuck hates this man.
I was so lost. All right.
Yeah, he's
Okay.
fishing poop out of the toilet.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
I was like, is he making moonshine? Like, is this some jail
Moonshine.
type of? Like, I went left because the only thing I've seen people fish out of toilets like that was like when they make hooch in jail. I was like,
Yeah.
well, that don't make sense. Like,
No.
I was like, that's not what
No.
this is. But I'm
No.
confused.
No, it's not what that is. You're right.
Oh, okay.
Right. So Ruth and Tommy. Well, Ruth thought she was going on a date with Tommy, and it
Mhm.
was her in the car with Tommy and 2 of Tommy's friends. And she was already like, "Oh, this is not what I thought we were gonna be doing," And that's when they set Tommy up and basically like hold out the bag of candy for him to take. And he drives by, grabs the bag, they throw in the poop bag onto his lap, so he has to like put it out with his hands and everything. So now he's got Chuck's poop all over his hands and his clothes, right? And so he's like
Yeah.
crashed the car into this fence or whatever, and he's like real pissed, and he's gonna chase them. So they run and they get to the drive-in. which is I've been to this drive-in. It still exists today and it's operational. It's very fun. You should go. It's called the Starlight Drive-In. It's on Harlem.
Mm.
So they get there and they're trying to hide between the cars or whatever, and they come upon Ramon, and they just jump in his car. And he had already seen Stella around town, right? And he thought she was cute. So when she jumps in the car, he's like, "What are you doing?" Like, and then when her car, he's like, "Wait a minute, hold on, y'all gotta get out." But he helps them hide from the bullies until they catch up to him, right? And of course, Tommy is also a racist. Um, Tommy's
Mhm.
is also pretty well known. Austin Abrams, he was in what's that show on HBO with Euphoria. He was on Euphoria,
Okay.
and he's also in this movie called Do Revenge, which is on Netflix. Uh, great movie. He was
Okay.
before that. He was also like The Walking Dead and Paper Towns. Yeah, I forgot he was in Paper Towns.
Okay.
So he's after them, and he calls Ramon, a slur and all this stuff. Doesn't know Ramon from anybody else. Like,
Right.
sure, we can be racist to this young man because
Mhm.
the people I want to abuse.
Right. Right.
So he goes frustrated. Not well. No, they stay together. Sorry, they stay together in the car, right? And they they fill Ramon in on Stella's backstory about her mom leaving and all this stuff. And she's like, "Hey, you guys want to go see a haunted house?" And they're like, "Okay, let's it's Halloween, right? Let's do it."
Mhm.
So they head over there, and they're able to. Oh, Ramon's able to pick the lock on the house, like this big Victorian house, right? I was like, "How is this being left alone?"
Man.
I'm thinking about the housing market. It has really good
Man.
balance. I don't understand.
Right. Right. Right.
But
And it
it's
was
the
a
haunted.
big house too.
It's a big house.
Yeah.
So, but they're able to break in, and they're looking around, and Stella finds this book with stories in it, and she's taking a look at that, and they're going around the house, and Chuck gets into like this wardrobe in one of the rooms, right? For some reason, and he's going to exit the wardrobe, but he notices the outside looks different. Suddenly, he's in this room that's well furnished and lit and everything, and
Mhm.
there's this huge Doberman standing staring at him, and this old woman with her eyes are covered with cataracts or something, or she's blind, or I don't know. And he's like terrified, and he thinks they're gonna basically approach him, especially that dog, and
Yeah.
it's his friend Augie who opens the door. It's like, "Hey, what's going on? Why are you screaming?" And so they've already started like seeing spirits and ghosts and stuff.
Mhm.
So they're down there, and they also are followed by Tommy and his gang and Ruth, right?
Mhm.
Still after them, still trying to find them. Uh, and what's her name? Oh, not Ruth, but Stella and Ramon are like together, trying to find whatever in this mysterious house. They find a secret door, and they're able to open it. And it's basically where the family would keep Sarah when they wanted her out of the way. And that was the
Mhm.
wall that was outside where she was able to tell stories to these kids.
Yes. Yeah.
So they're down there when Tommy finds Ruth is like, basically stop. Like, this is my brother. Like, you just chill. And he throws her in with them and locks the door. And he says, "You're trash too."
Mm.
Great guy.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Bless.
Thank you. So Stella finds this book that belongs to Sarah, and it's got all these stories in it. They're eventually basically. So she takes the book home, and she brushes like the title of the story is Harold, and it's like wet ink, but it's blood. All these stories are written in blood. And
Mm,
so the first story is Harold. And Harold is a story where Tommy goes to his cornfield because they live in this countryside. And Harold is the scarecrow, basically. And before we've seen Tommy like abuse the scarecrow. He's like, I hate
right.
Harold. And he's like hitting him with bottles and bats and stuff. It's like,
Mhm. Yeah, that was like the opening scene.
yeah. It's like, sir, what's wrong? Like, so
Like, who
foolish.
hurt you?
Right. And so he's back out there in the cornfield and he's drunk and angry and he keeps seeing and hearing things like out of the corner of his eye and stuff. And now
Hmm.
he's running through this cornfield because Harold is no longer on his post anymore. You know, Harold is actually chasing him. And so he picks up a pitchfork and stabs Harold with it, but Harold's not alive. He just pulls it out and stabs him with it.
Yeah.
And the next time we see Harold, is it Harold or is it Tommy? Because they're wearing his varsity jacket.
Um, you know,
And Tommy's reporting.
Harold Harold remind me of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Mm-hmm.
Leatherface.
I can see that.
Yeah. Yeah, because it was like from the opening scene, it was creepy. Because I was like, okay, so what's the story going to be behind this scarecrow? Because there got right there has to be a story. But then when that happened to him, um, and he started turning, because he was coughing out the straw and stuff like that. I was like, oh, he's turning into
Mhm.
a scarecrow. So it's kind of like the transfer of souls, or kind of. So I thought that
Or
was pretty cool.
something. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was really cool. Yeah. And there also,
Mhm.
you see like Harold has like these giant bugs crawling out of his face and stuff like that. Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, of course, Stella doesn't know this is all happening when she's reading the story. So she reads the story and goes on, to the next story, which is Big Toe, which is all of these stories are based on folklore, legends, and myths and stuff like that. So even if you hadn't necessarily read the books, some of these stories can still seem familiar. So the Big Toe is very familiar to a story that I knew called "Who Took My Golden Arm."
Mm, okay. Now I remember there was an episode of Living Single where they told that story.
Hmm.
Mm,
So the whole thing where someone has a thing that was attached to them, it's no longer there, they're dead, and they want it back.
hmm.
So, Stella had actually tried to get rid of the book, but it came back.
Yeah. It's too
Ramon
late.
found Ramon is staying in the basement now, so he can hide from the cops and the bullies. He doesn't have anywhere to
Oh,
go. Um,
terrible.
Terrible. And he refines the book, and he's able to see like the next story they read is the Big Toe, and it says it's going to be Augie, right? And so they're trying to get in contact with him. It's 1968. Kids don't have phone lines like that. They have their walkie-talkies,
Yeah.
which apparently have incredible range.
That's what I was thinking too. I was like, they must have top of the line military grade walkie talkies.
Seriously, because the
Yeah.
walkie we had did not go that far.
At all. At all. Like you'd
I
be
wish,
lucky if you was upstairs and somebody you could talk to in the basement. Like
I wish they had that range. Are you kidding?
right.
Uh, but they're trying to get in touch with him. They're like, "Hey, don't even." Augie's on the phone with his mom. His mom is apparently out on a date with some dude, and she wants she. He said at one point he says, "Well, I'm not calling him dad." Oh, and he's like, "Well, I'm just gonna eat this stew that you left in the fridge." And apparently, she doesn't really know what it is because responses indicate that she's like, "What do you need?" Right? He's like, "Let's do it, whatever." And I was reading your tweets about it, but I was
Mhm.
like, "They were trying to keep food from a growing away."
They were trying to do what again?
They were trying to keep food away from a teenage boy.
Oh, okay.
Not gonna happen. He's home alone.
Yeah. Yeah,
He's hungry.
true.
Don't eat
Right.
it.
You definitely have a point. Yeah.
Um, So, he's gonna eat this stew, and they're like, "Hey, don't eat it, whatever. Here's what the story says." And he's like, "What are you guys talking about? Like, this is crazy. I'm hungry." So he's eating the stew. At first, it goes well, right? First bite's fine, right? That's how they get you.
Hmm.
But we see the toe in the pot, and just the idea, right?
Right.
And he, of course, eventually gets the gnaw on the toe.
Mm.
Poor Augie. And then he starts hearing like the ghost saying, "Where's my toe?" All this stuff, whatever. The things they were telling him that were in the story. He runs to his room. He hides under the bed, very classic kid stuff, and
Hmm.
opens slowly. And he doesn't see anybody come in. So he's like, okay. He's trying to be as safe as he can. He doesn't know what's going on.
Right.
And he looks above the bed. Nothing's there, but she's below the bed with him and drags him into some abyss somewhere. You never see him
Right.
again. He's got these claw marks all on the ground, and like they even actually go and like look under his bed, and all they see are claw marks.
Yeah. I was like, how did they know to look under the bed?
I think they were just looking and thinking of like, where would I hide?
Mm.
There,
Yeah.
the closet.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Because that was my question. I was like, how do they know to go straight to under the bed?
Yeah, yeah. I just think they were thinking about places where they would hide. You know,
Hmm.
and they don't live that far apart. So when they hear things start going crazy, they start running over there. So it's not like they could have really gone anywhere.
Right. That happened fast.
Mm.
Like if you think about it in real time, that happened real fast.
They got there like right afterwards.
Hmm.
So, they've been trying to find out about this book and things like that. They've tried to destroy the book. Of course, it did not work, right? They pulled out the
Hmm.
paper writing. So they've been researching, Bellows, Sarah Bellows, and the family and stuff like that. And they learned that they had a live-in maid who was apparently fired for teaching Sarah witchcraft. Okay, Salem witchcraft, right?
Hmm.
And that live-in maid had a daughter, and that daughter is played by Maureen Toussaint's character, Maureen Toussaint. So they go and they see her, and there's this song that plays throughout the movie. And what's so funny is the melody is the same as from when I remember people singing it when I was a kid. But I never saw any music. I never heard it recorded or anything.
Okay.
So, don't ever laugh when a hearse goes by, for you might be the next to die. It's kind of how
I
that
never.
starts.
Yeah, I
They
had
wrap
never heard that.
big white sheet, and something about worms calling. The worms crawl in, the worms crawl out, the worms play pinochle on your snout. So that's the song. Very creepy melody, right?
Yeah,
But
a
you
little bit.
hear right? You hear it throughout the film. Sometimes it's a score. Sometimes it's like in this scene they play a music box and it plays, and like she starts singing it. Okay? And so basically, we learn that Sarah committed suicide apparently, and then after that, all the family left, and all their names can also be found in the book as well, suggesting that maybe Sarah wrote stories about them and how they
Hmm.
went. Right? So they have this information because also the family owned like this giant paper mill in town, which is how they became so prominent. And what was happening is they were releasing mercury into the drinking water and had killed some children.
Mm.
Sarah herself is albino, which is already one strike against her during that time because I don't know if you know, but like I think it was up until like 1960s or 70s, America used to have these things called ugly laws, basically to hide away individuals who were disabled or disfigured. Like
Yeah, they have them committed.
you can be out on the street. So
Yeah.
they had put Sarah into a mental hospital, and they were doing like electroshock therapy on her, trying to get her to admit that she was the reason that the kids were getting sick and dying and stuff like that. That she was crazy, telling these wild stories about her family.
Yeah.
They had this girl locked up in the house, had her doing electroshock therapy,
Mhm.
literally gaslighting her with the entire medical
Yeah.
establishment account, and then blaming her for all this deaths that they were doing and getting rich off of.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Stories,
crazy.
stories they told about her, the stories they told to her, the lies, you
Hmm.
know, power. So so they were actually just caused by the family, and they were just trying to make her the scapegoat. So they want, of course, more information, but in the meantime, stories are still.
Hmm.
So we have Ruth, who was unfortunately who wasn't really trying to be there, but now she's a part of the story. And when Tommy pushed Ruth into the cellar, there were all these spider webs and stuff, and she
Yeah.
was like, "Get these off me." And Augie helped get them off and everything because he's like, basically. Um, and so we see her later on because they're telling her about like the details of the book, and Sarah about she's like, I don't want to hear this. Basically, she's
Right.
like, I
Right.
have
She
a
ain't got no parts.
right. So I have to go. Like, Halloween's over. Like,
Right. We're moving on to Thanksgiving. How many y'all to chill
not
out?
30.
Right.
So she's getting this like big pimple on her cheek. Cannot hide it. Right?
Mhm.
Which is just a nightmare within itself. You're gonna be on stage in front of everybody with this
Right.
big old honk on your face. And so she's been trying to be gentle with it, but she really, of course, wants to pop it because of course she does.
Right.
And she notices like there's like this protrusion sticking out of it, like this almost like a hair, like the pimple
Hmm.
growing.
Hmm.
And so she's pulling at it and it moves. It moves.
Hmm. Right.
It moves. Spider's leg because spiders explode from her face, her cheek. And
Oh,
no, the room is full of hundreds of spiders, and she, of course, is screaming her head off.
right. I would have lost my shit. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. No way. I had a granddaddy long leg spider follow me once, right here. And at first I didn't know because I just thought it was my hair because it felt
Uh-huh.
like that. And so I
Mhm.
reached up and pulled a spider off, girl. The house.
Man, Lord have mercy. Mm, mm, mm.
Imagine. Oh man. So,
Yeah.
they by the time anybody gets to her and sees her, she's just screaming on the floor. They don't see any spiders and everything. Stella kind of sees the ghost of Sarah at the scene.
Hmm.
They and they take Ruth out, they put her on a cot and they institutionalize her. Now she's part
Right.
of it,
Right.
right?
But that's what it
So,
was back then. They automatically, if you weren't normal, they automatically took you to the
I
fucking
mean,
farm.
you defy your father, they're taking you to institutionalize
Right.
you. So,
Right.
um, yeah. So they this is actually when they find Lulu Baptiste, but we already knew that. So they talk about how she was in the hospital, and like in the hospital, her doctor was her older brother. So this man that you hear talking to her on like these, it's so funny to me because like Sarah's storyline takes place like in the 1910s, it seems like, but they have her sessions recorded on these what are they called? I want to say it's stereographs or something, but like before records were even produced, they had those
Yeah.
like little speakers of sound basically. And I was like,
Hmm.
"What? Those are very expensive." And I was like, y'all, there's no way this rich family would have had that recorded, period. Like, and for that to survive and y'all listen to it, like, it's just funny. But anyway,
Right.
so,
Yeah, because it's like even in the 60s, like y'all really had a record, like a player to play it.
right, because it's not just a record player that you can play these on.
Exactly.
But they did their research thing, so they found out what was going on. So they want to go to the hospital and like look at her records. Because by this time, Augie's gone, Tommy's gone, Ruth is gone. It's just Ramon, Chuck, and Stella.
Hmm.
They're trying to find these records so they can get some information about how they can make this all stop. And Chuck actually at one point does tell them about like this spooky dream he's been having of this woman in white with long black hair telling him, to leave, this place is dangerous, right? And it really spooks him. And
Mhm.
they're trying to find these records. The hospital staff won't give it to them, um, even though this is over 100 years ago. Uh,
Right. But it's
so
just so funny that they really was just like, okay, we just want to get some records. Like, oh yeah, sure. Like it'd be easy peasy.
well, for them being over 100 years, you would think it wouldn't be such a big deal. Uh,
But it wasn't gonna be as simple as they thought either.
no, no, because there was yeah, it takes like 6 weeks to process, which I was like,
Right, right,
horribly understaffed.
right.
But also one of the people working there is like, oh yeah, those records would be in the red room.
Hmm.
So like they fill out paperwork or whatever. But Chuck kind of goes looking for the red room. They all go looking for the red room. They get separated, of course,
No, of course.
because all this stuff happens when they're all separated, right? Nothing ever happens when they're really together, except for the last one.
Hmm.
They get separated. They're
Yeah, because the old boy was adamant. He was like, "Yeah, no, I'm not trying to do."
no, he was
They
very
was
specific.
literally, yeah, they was literally dragging.
Yeah,
And I'm like, of course they're gonna separate because that totally makes sense. You separate from the one person that's the scared the most.
right. Well, you got to keep a cool head to try and evade hospital security. So
Hmm.
trying to do that, but they trigger an alarm, and the alarm makes the whole hallways go red. Right, it's very red light, and Chuck starts to see the pale lady, and she's moving. She's moving pretty slowly. She's very kind of creepy. She doesn't seem angry or menacing, but she's persistent. Right, and there's this red light. There's this alarm. It's very atmospheric. Right. So he's trying to run from her. He goes down one hallway, there she is. He turns around, goes down another hallway, there she is. Every single direction he turns, there she is. And
Hmm.
to the point where she's hugging him and absorbs him,
Yeah,
and he's gone.
yeah, just like that.
Now there is an idea that she is trying to protect him because again, he's had these dreams where she's told him this is an evil place and you should leave.
Mm, that's a thought.
Mhm. Because it is an evil place. That's where they did all that to Sarah.
Yeah, right, right. I didn't think of it like that, but that is a thought.
Yeah. So she's coming into his dreams telling him that. Why would she harm him?
Yeah,
You
it's a
know.
point. Yeah.
So hopefully, when and if the second one gets released, we'll get some more. Well, not, who knows? So he gets absorbed. Of course, they find him just moments later. They find his little sexy pin that he has, so they know it's him. And Stella and Ramona are arrested for trespassing because they were trespassing.
Yeah.
And that's when we find out that Ramon is a draft dodger. And he talks about how his brother enlisted and like how his body was returned in pieces and stuff like that. And so they're in like these jail cells, and there's a dog there who apparently lives at the station, I guess, because he wasn't with the policeman before. Um,
Mm.
but the dog is like barking at the fireplace, and so this story is actually like a combination of a few different stories where you go and see like this kind of character that comes up, and like there's also a dog, but so they combine them here, which is great.
Okay. Okay.
So the dog is like barking at the fireplace. Also, it's dark. Like they don't have
Mm.
any lights on at all.
Yeah.
It's just strange, but as if
Yeah.
he just like
Right.
locked the kids in the basement and forgot them. Basically, what?
Right.
We can't turn on a light. I know you have
Yeah.
electricity.
Right. Because I mean, jail. I
Notoriously,
know. Yeah, like they always have lights on in jail. Prison may be something different, but jail, especially like when you first get arrested, the lights are always on. Don't
so
ask me how I know. But
so the dog is barking at the dark fireplace, and body parts start dropping into the fireplace from up top. and it's just this figure that keeps saying "Nitai Doty Walker," which I don't know anything, but it's creepy enough, right?
Hmm.
Basically, just Ramon's fear of death and the way his brother died coming for him.
Hmm.
And so the creature in particular is called the Jangly Man, uh, which is also a story that he heard when Ramon was a kid that used to frighten him as well. So that's how he recognizes it. And the Jangly Man kills the police officer first. The dog just leaves the room. The dog's like, hey, I'm not doing this. I don't get paid.
I don't get paid enough for this.
I tried to tell you, like, what do you think I'm doing? Fireplace.
Right. It's not enough Alpo in the world. I'm out.
I'm out. But Ramon and Sarah are able to get out of the prison cells, the jail cells, and they're able to get to the car. And Ramon realizes, hey, this is after me. We need to go and try to figure out how to end this whole thing with Sarah. Because if he gets both of us, then what, right?
Mhm.
Somebody needs to be able to try. So he's able to lure the Jangly Man away. He hits him with his car and like pins him between his car and another one. And he just disassembles. He can just
Yeah.
his person just come apart at will. So he's able to
Mhm.
escape that pinning, and it's crazy. But also, this guy does a whole like walking backwards, bent over backwards thing.
Mhm. And then he turned around and went forward.
That's a
Yeah.
real. He's a contortionist who was on like America's Got Talent.
Oh, really? Oh, I thought that was all CGI.
That was not CGI.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's awesome.
So when you see, anytime he of course is all together and walking,
Mhm.
that's a real person.
Oh, wow. Okay. Now that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're able to make it back to the old mansion, right? And
Mhm.
what's going on, and this is kind of where like they kind of like see the past and like see more of Sarah's story, how like her brothers were chasing her through the house trying to find her, how nobody was teaching her witchcraft. That was not a thing. Y'all were just being
Mhm.
racist. Uh,
Mhm.
all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's Ramon trying to get away, from the Jangly Man, but Stella's like in the past, but it's all happening at the same time. So there's one point where she drops her glasses and he finds them, but they're in different planes of existence, which I don't know. I think is cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ramon eventually just tries to hide from the student because there's like no escape. Because there's one part where he like runs up the stairs and then Jangly Man just like flips over the banister to get upstairs. Like, oh no. Uh,
Yeah.
uh,
There was just no getting away.
none.
Even
So
when
that
he wrecked the car, I was like, this is not over. Like this has only begun. You're just irritating them.
so Sarah, not Sarah, but Stella confronts Sarah.
Hmm.
Like, I know the truth of what happened to you. Your family was wrong, but what you're doing now, hurting everybody else, is not right either. She's
Yeah.
like, you need to let go of this rage. You can let go. They're not here. Nobody else can hurt you. Just let it go. I will tell your story. Right. And Sarah's like, okay. So she gives her the book and the pen. She's like, you got to write it with your blood. So she starts writing it with the blood. Sarah's like, fine. Okay, cool. So she like screams, like letting the rage out, and this finishes the whole Jangly Man. So no one's okay. And so Stella goes on to write about Sarah's life in the school paper, keeping her promise and everything. And
Hmm.
all kinds of like praise for the story, which is great. Of course, not everybody believes her. Uh, Ramon eventually accepts his enlistment and like joins the tribe.
They was wrong for that. Yeah.
There's not much he would either need to keep
Yeah.
running his car.
Yeah.
Now you got a dead police officer? No.
You're right. Right. Yeah.
So they're like, we're gonna keep looking for Chuck and Aggie. We gotta find ways to like bring them back, you know, and keep in touch with Ramon and stuff like that. So there's plenty of room for a second movie. It was supposedly in production in
Hmm.
2020. You know,
Yeah.
20 itself, shutdowns,
Yeah.
lockdowns, blah, blah, blah. Then we also had the strike last year. So
Right.
where this is where this would be in the process of being released,
Yeah.
if ever. So,
I feel
uh,
like they really need to come back and revisit it because the way it left off, it definitely left a lot of room for a part two.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is scary movies to tell in the dark.
Yeah. One thing I liked about it was that how they brought everything together in the movie
Hmm.
instead of, because, what you expected if you were to have, read the book would be separate stories like an anthology,
Hmm.
but how they fused them together, I thought it was pretty cool.
I like that too, and I also like the way it's a story about stories, which is a very common thing to do, right? It's not,
Hmm.
but I like the way they did it here. But also going back to Sarah and being like, hey, what happened to you was wrong, and the truth should be told. That you can't keep doing what you're doing. You can't put that harm
Yeah.
on. You got to stop rejecting that. You got to let it
Yeah. Yeah. The whole hurt people.
go. Because you're only here because you can't move on because you can't let it go.
Hmm.
Okay, you like you went through a lot, girl. I'm like I'm not gonna hold you,
Right.
but
I'm not
you can't
right.
touch the children that you were initially trying to save
Hmm.
because of it.
Yeah.
So it's a rare, kind of scary horror spooky film where the uh, person causing the trouble is reasoned with and accepts accountability.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I like how they did it though.
Yeah, me too.
Um, I was entertained, so and I
Yeah.
wasn't too scared, but I
No.
did watch it. I did watch it in the morning on purpose.
Oh,
Like I ain't got time.
in the dark with the lights off.
Just judging by the photo, I was like, yeah, no, I'm not watching because I was gonna watch it last night, and I was like, nope, I'll watch this in the morning.
The budget was about $28 million or so, and it
Okay,
made 4.5 million. So it did pretty
you said
well.
it made what
104.5 mil.
104. Okay, yeah, that's more than pretty well. That's real good. Yeah. What made you want to review this one?
Well, again, just like how I grew up with the stories themselves,
Hmm.
uh, book, hearing about the book, hearing about it being banned, hearing the stories from the book. There are a lot of, again, the last stories in the book are things you may have already heard from other myths, legends, or folklore. Like, for instance, the call is coming from inside the house. Story
Hmm.
is also in here.
Hmm.
Uh,
Okay.
so it's just like a great collection of stories from all over the world, based on stories from all over the world that I heard a lot.
Hmm.
And since there wasn't a movie then, there's a movie now, and it's spooky season, and
Yeah.
it wouldn't be too hard on you.
No, it wasn't too hard, but yeah, yeah, that picture, uh, yeah, made me watch it in the morning.
So,
Yeah, and now since we talked about the illustrations from the book, I can see why. Um,
because I know you said you thought the monsters were funny or like not scary or something.
yeah, yeah, because it's the whole thing, like the suspicion or the anticipation that um that makes you more scared than what they actually show you, which
Mhm,
happens often
mhm,
in especially in horror films. It happens way more often than not. And it's just the anticipation and your own imagination that'll
mhm,
have it be way scarier than what they present to you. Then once they present it to you and you start really deciphering what you're seeing and you're like, this ain't that bad,
mhm.
you know. And that's why I was just like, yeah, some of these are laughable. But the way that the illustrations were, those are scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they did do a real good job of interpreting them for the film. It just was maybe because we were watching it where you're just like, oh shoot, this ain't really that bad.
I mean, it is also for kids, you know.
Yeah, right. Then that's that part too. So they probably did, kind of soften the blow a little bit.
Well, no, the stories are pretty much as the stories are. So they didn't really
No, I'm talking about the vision.
Oh, the visuals? Well, did they though? Because they look a lot like the illustrations.
They did, but it wasn't as terrible. Like they could have done a lot more with the cinematography to make it worse,
Mm, mhm,
you know. And so I'm like, maybe they just softened the blow a little bit because it is something that kids know about and would
mhm,
have wanted to see.
mhm.
So,
But yeah, I'm looking
oh,
forward to another one. All right. Let's go into our ratings because I want to
yes,
continue.
yes. So let's go to our ratings. So we have one movie real trash AF, two it exists, three entertaining, four great, five a true classic. So
What would
Maria, what say
you,
you?
what would you
What would
give
I?
it?
Okay, I will give it a 3.5.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. It was definitely entertaining. It was more. It was more than entertaining. Like I didn't have a problem with watching
Good. I'm glad to hear it. Would you
it.
watch it again?
Yeah. Honestly, I probably would. Like I would like if somebody was like, I'm gonna put it on, I wouldn't oppose. I'd be like, all right, sure.
I would give it the same, actually. I would give it a 3.5 as well.
Okay.
I think it's a really great addition to like kids horror, these
Mm-hmm.
spooky season stuff, you know, that can stretch really well for people who are like super into horror, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe new to horror, or people like me who just like kind of like fun spooky things sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite shirt off. I love my fun spooky things too, as well as
Right, right.
action horror. So yeah, I think it has like great rewatchability and really puts you in the mood.
Yeah, yeah. I agree. I agree. I'm not mad at it at all.
Yeah. So what is your pick for me for next time?
You know,
Or should I pick something else for you?
I got it. Let me look at my list. Because I was trying to think and I'm like, I'm lost. Okay.
There are lots of other horror
Let's
movies.
see.
We can do some more Guillermo.
Let's see. Let me see where this one is. Hold please. Nope. That sucks. Let me see. Let me see if this one even made it to streaming because it wasn't on streaming last time. Nope. Uh,
Yeah, and the film was actually nominated for 2 SAG awards, the Horror Movie Award. Mhm, I believe. I'm not sure. But it was, nominated for Best Horror Film and Best Makeup. So it's just like 2 nominees.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
Yeah.
You know what? Let
If
me
you
see it
see,
after.
like, the masks and, like, makeup that was used in the movie for the monsters,
Hmm.
it's very disturbing. Yeah, I mean, it looks exactly like the drawing. It's just like, "Oh," but the colors are even more popping. It's just like,
Uh-huh.
"Oh, whatever." You know, at least in the movie, you can just kind of, like, look away for a few seconds or something. But I
Okay.
can see it being made into a TV series too, with all the
Yeah,
different
I can
stories.
definitely see it be a TV series.
Yeah.
Um, have you seen The Wash?
The what?
The Wash with
Spell
Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg?
spell that?
Wash, WASH.
Oh! No, I haven't.
Okay. Have you seen Car Wash?
Yeah, yeah, Car Wash. Yeah,
Okay. Okay. So bet
their remake of Car Wash.
it's their own version. Yeah.
Okay, I have seen this. Okay,
Okay. So you have seen the wash. Okay. All right. Never mind. Let's see.
directed by DJ Pooh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've
Dang.
seen. I remember Exhibit being in it. Oh God, Polly Shore. Ugh.
So no Polly Shore.
And those are, oh girl, Biodome is the worst movie I've ever seen in my entire life. And I was a child when I went to see that,
Oh wow.
and I hated it.
I don't think I've seen it. I remember it though. I do remember it. Oh, they suck. A lot of these movies. Oh, they're getting on my nerves. Let's see. This Sunday. Watch that one. Let me see. Maybe we'll go on ahead and do Jungle Fever.
I've seen Jungle Fever.
Oh, you have seen Jungle Fever? I
Yeah,
thought you hadn't seen it. Okay. You seen Soul Food?
yeah.
Okay. Uh, okay. We did. I tried. Yeah, we already did. I tried. No, we did Jacked Up. We did do I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, right?
Do we?
It seemed like we did. Okay. We're gonna do Idlewild.
I've seen Idlewild.
You seen that? Oh shoot. I need to update my list.
Idlewild came out when I was like doing my reviews and stuff.
Okay.
Mm,
Let me go there. Okay. You seen Thicker Than Water?
I'm not sure. Let me see. Let me
That
back.
was with Mac 10 and Fat Joe.
No, no, I've never seen anything with Fat Joe in it.
Okay. Yeah, this came out in 1999 and it should still be on YouTube.
I should still be on YouTube.
I know, horrible. Yeah, it's still on YouTube.
Okay,
Yep.
send me the link.
Okay. All right. So next time we will be watching 1999's Thicker Than Water,
Yes.
starring Fat Joe and Mac 10. It's gonna be hilarious.
I hope so.
So, and it is so not supposed to be, but it will be. It definitely will be. So,
Sometimes the way it goes.
hmm,
It's like that sometimes.
yeah, yep, you are
Mhm.
absolutely correct. But yeah, I'll reserve the rest of my comments for our next time.
Okay. And where can they find you online, Lindsay?
So you can find me everywhere at L underscore Renelle. That's L underscore RANELLE. And also on my other podcast, The Ish We Talk, where me and my cousin talk about a variety of hot topics.
Yes.
So, Maria, where can we find you?
You can find me online pretty much anywhere. And if I'm there, you're going to be able to find me at Valar Dollars. That's VALARMOR Dollars. Also on another podcast called Nerdgasm Noir, where I talk with 5 other Black ladies about nerdy, geeky pop culture things. So you can join us there. We do have a couple other podcasts, one called Smut Book Club. You can guess what that's about. And another one called A Diverse Mess, where we talk about like Real Housewives and other reality TV shows.
Yes, yes, absolutely. All right. So, yes, this was episode 63. Roomies Review the Movies, and we will see you guys for episode 64.
For the
Bye.
good.
Taking the
Bye.
water.
I wonder if they're gonna get